Hey guys, today I wanted to talk about why the pros play Abathur. And the the way this series works is essentially instead of me giving you a guide of how you should play a hero, instead when you see a hero in a pro game and you're like, why did they pick that hero over, I don't know, anyone else? I go through and I explain the reason they pick that hero, why that hero is commonly picked, and what you can do to sort of abuse their benefits compared to other heroes. And Abathur's kind of an interesting hero. I'm going to go to Hot Slogs really quick, and I want to show you guys a little bit about where Abathur stands. Abathur's currently one of the lower win rate heroes. If we were to go to the bottom of the win rates, he is the fifth lowest win rate hero. But you might see some familiar faces of people who have been used a lot in pro play. And that's because pros will pick a hero and they'll use him for a very specific purpose, but then when we play the hero, we'll lose because we don't know why the pros pick those heroes. That's why Taskstars pick so much in pro games as well as Medivh, yet their win rates are so low. So with Abathur, the build that usually people see in Hot Slogs is the pressured glands, followed by shields or a bonus attack speed to toss in like an Illidan or something. And you don't really know exactly what you're supposed to be going. And then you'll see Mule and you'll be like, oh, well, a lot of people are picking Mule. Should I be picking that just because other people are picking it? Well, the win rate's low, and it's because people don't know what they're supposed to be doing with Mule or when is a good time to actually pick it. So they end up just picking one with a higher win rate, and they're not really sure what they're doing. So I wanted to show you guys a pro game. This game is between Method and Team 12. It's on Cursed Hollow, and if you haven't seen this could be a little bit of a spoiler, but if you have seen this, then you're going to see just the Abathur gameplay. So the first reason that you'll play Abathur, let me turn down the volume really quick. So the first reason that you're going to want to play Abathur is on a map where people are going to be fighting in a location where you can stay safely in another location and get experience. Cursed Hollow is one of the best maps for Abathur because the curses are either going to be in the top zone or the bottom zone. And there's no curses in the middle. The closest curses to the middle is right here as well as right here. And neither of these curses are in positions where if you are soaking up here and everyone's down here, no one's going to take their time and run all the way up here and try to kill you. So it allows Abathur to always be in a position that is safe to soak experience, as well as they can double soak lanes by using their body to soak one lane and their Q hat to soak another lane. This allows you to group up as four and push together. So what you want to do if you have an Abathur is you want to play a composition that allows you to push as four very often. And what Team 12 ended up going with was a Greymane, an Arthas, a Rhaegar, and a Tracer. And the reason that they went with these is because the way that this works is Greymane has very strong siege damage. He can break towers very quickly. So if they get a level lead, they're in a really good position. Arthas makes it to where it's hard to get past him while they're sieging because he's going to slow and root everyone, so you can't get to the Greymane. While Tracer can pick off anyone who gets a little too low during a fight. So while as Tracer on this map is good because you can hop behind the lines while everyone's fighting over an objective. So our the other reason that you'll pick an Abathur, not just for the soaking, not just for the double soaking, but there's two other reasons. One reason is because in one particular build that he goes, where your shield will heal a target, as well as your shield persists after you end Symbiote. That means that you can Q onto someone, you can use your shield, which is your E, and then you can immediately end your Q and go back to soaking lanes while that target will still have a shield on them, as well as will still be getting healed for the duration of this. This allows the Rhaegar to focus on healing the Arthas as well as the Greymane, while the Tracer can get a shield no matter where she's going, as well as getting heals no matter where she's going. So we have a very strong siege comp with a group of four, at the same time as we have the ability to dive their backline with a near unkillable Tracer because of the shields and heals that Abathur is going to be giving. At the same time, Abathur can still give the shields on one person, and then say maybe Greymane decides to jump in, he can jump to Greymane, drop a shield, and start using some abilities and drop off of that. There is another talent that's picked up in solo queue instead of Mule, which is Carapace shields all nearby allies. That means that you can leave that shield on them even if you leave. But it is an untalented shield, which means that they do not get the healing benefit from this one. There are benefits to each of these builds, but in this particular game they go Mule, and you'll see the reasons why they go Mule. So we'll get started in this game, and the first thing that Abathurs usually do is they want to make sure that their first strain goes where they want. The first strain always goes out right as minions spawn. So they want the first strain to go into the mid lane, and then you can jump into the lane that you want to go in afterwards. A lot of times what Abathurs will do is they will dig so that they have their first strain reach the lane right as their next strain is going to be spawning. So they'll have two strains pushing the first lane. So Team 12 is currently staying very close. This is exactly what I said they were going to do. They are going to siege as 4. They're going to get off as much damage as they can. With Arthas in front, it's hard to get to the back line, which Greymane's going to be doing a lot of damage. Abathur can double soak lanes, so while a bunch of people go up top, Abathur can choose to either soak bottom lane or soak middle lane, or both. He can soak mid lane and then uses trait to soak bottom lane. This way they'll be able to take a tower which is worth 500 experience, and they'll get to level lead faster than the other team. Now, level 10 is very important on Abathur because you're essentially fighting every game as a 4v5 or like a 4.2v5 because you have a shield. So you don't want to fight until 10, which you will get the ability to clone one of your allies. This clone also increases your spell damage, your basic attack damage, and your movement speed, which with someone like a Tracer, who is all auto attack damage and spell damage, is very strong, as well as a Greymane, who, again, auto attack damage is very strong. So the clone targets are very, very good for Abathur, and allows them to get a lot of damage off for free during fights. So a lot of what they're going to be doing is trying to get to level 10 very quickly. So there was a pause. We're not actually going to see it, but you could see there was a pause, and they were all typing during that time. So Abathur's going to go for bottom lane. Now, the challenge with going bottom lane first is we know that the first objective is going to be spawning bottom. So I believe what they're going to try to do is get a lot of value top so that when Abathur jumps top before the objective spawns, he's already going to have a lot of value up here, pressuring them even further. But normally, if you're playing Abathur in a regular game, what you'll want to do is always be in a different lane from where the objective's going to spawn. And if you don't know where the objective's going to spawn, it does a highlight on the map where the next objective's going to spawn. We're going to speed up a little bit. Okay, so everyone is rotating mid lane. Abathur is soaking bottom lane with his body, which means that he can soak top lane with his Q, or he can jump top lane because, again, in 10 seconds he has jump again, and the objective's going to spawn here. So everyone's going to rotate down. We're going to get a camp that's going to push mid, and it's going to allow Abathur to soak 2 different lanes. So we just saw that Abathur used his Q up top to soak the minion wave. However, Blaze killed it very quickly. But Abathur's going to try to soak this wave really quickly. So best bet on Abathur is to Q a tower, which likely won't die. And you also get to keep the tower for longer by putting a shield on it. But Arthas ends up taking the soak, so they don't need to worry about using that Abathur. So again, it's very powerful to use this shield heal on Tracer because she can play much more aggressive and closer to towers. And that's another reason to pick Abathur. If you have a diver and your healer does not heal divers like Rhaegar, having an Abathur for a Genji or a Tracer is a good way to guarantee a lot more value out of that Genji or Tracer. So the biggest way to pick Abathur is to pick him for the map first. You want to pick him on a map that has an objective that you can split to. You want to pick him on a map that has 3 lanes, so you can soak 2 different lanes. And you want to pick him into a comp that has a diver that you can put shields on. Assuming you pick him into those 3 scenarios, it's most likely going to be a very, very favorable matchup. Currently, Abathur's best maps for HGC with the highest win rates are Cursed Hollow as well as Dragonshire. Dragonshire, he can soak mid lane and he can throw Qs at top and bottom lane. While Cursed Hollow, again, it's a 3-lane map with an objective that everyone wants to fight at. With this first objective spawning, they're getting this top camp, which will allow Abathur to push very, very easily with it. But I believe they're going to pass it just because they're down a couple levels, or at least 1 level. They may delay it a little bit. So what Abathur just did was Abathur hit level 4, which means that Abathur can toss a shield and it persists afterwards. Which means now what you want to be constantly doing is you want to be bouncing between all of your characters and you want to be throwing the shields out, especially on your Tracer. So you can see that there's a shield on Tracer right now. And Abathur just used a Q again, which I don't know where he used it. Oh, he just used it up front. And he put a shield on a minion. Now, the thing about Abathur's ability here is that it removes the shield from the other person. So you cannot stack shields on multiple people. You need to make sure that the person that needs the shield is the last person you use it on. However, you can do a shield onto Tracer, and then you can still queue onto someone else for your other abilities. Another reason why Abathur's picked a lot is because of his ability to keep vision on the map and know where enemies are coming from. So before this objective, they were able to put down some traps in common areas that the enemies might be traveling through. The objective's going to go to Team 12 with no contest. I think the main reason why is because of the pressure that's already being applied top. They had to defend against that. So right there, he stepped a little bit closer to make sure that he could body soak these minions. Remember, the length of soaking is half the screen size. If you're on a regular widescreen ratio, it's half the screen size. So if you are sitting at right here, the soaking range is going to be about here. I know that's not a great way to explain it, just because if you're on a different screen size, it changes. You can always use your Q and your W to help push if you feel like you need to add more pressure into a lane. What a lot of people will do is they'll place Ws into the lane first, where the minions are about to die, and then right before the Ws are ready to pop, you'll toss your Q there so that the Ws pop while you're in range to get experience with your Q, and you can immediately drop it and go someplace else. Right here, he used Q on the wall itself instead of the tower. While giving the shield to the tower would be very beneficial, the challenge is that the tower is going to die very quickly, and you want to still get pressure and kill off minions. And again, shields, heals. This allows it to where Rhaegar can use his wave clear and you can still be healing multiple people on the map. When pros play Abathur, it's a lot about just making sure that you're active the entire time. But when you play Abathur, it's more about being in the right place at the right time. Oftentimes, when you're playing Abathur and Cursed Hollow, you won't hit level 10 until the third curse. So, what's recommended is usually to try to just grab one of the curses and then to give up the other two curses in focus of just soaking lane experience. So Mule was picked up at level 7. The benefit of Mule is you can get a health back up to towers, and it's most beneficial on maps where there's an objective that will push and will do a lot of damage. Usually I like it on Sky Temple, as it's another good map for Abathur, and you can place your mule down on a fort, and it makes it to where the fort has to use extra shots to take down the fort. And usually the Sky Temple objectives have enough damage to take down a fort by themselves. So if you put down a mule, you can save a fort pretty much with mule. So they decided they don't want to pass this. They're the same talent tier, and they still have a good comp to fight. Currently, what Abathur is doing right now is he is body soaking mid lane as well as he is pushing top lane. He's focusing on getting level 10 while they're just simply distracting. They're probably saying in chat, hey, we don't need to fight right now. Just distract as long as you'd like because we're double soaking lanes and they are not. So it's more beneficial for this fight to go on very long and us lose it than for us to try to win it and end up dying in the process. So they give up the objective, but they did stall enough to where Abathur was able to get some experience. We can get a general idea of how much experience he's getting by simply looking at the XP contribution, as he's doing more EXP contribution than Blaze, who's been double soaking for them. And again, what I said is usually if they can just get one objective, they don't need to worry about the other two objectives until level 10. So this is another situation where they probably will pass this objective. And again, it's just simple Qs onto people and then using a shield so that they can get healing and then turning it off immediately. And this allows them to keep their shield as well as allows you to decide if you want to place more traps or if you want to place more Qs. Because of these kills, they actually can take the objective, but they still decide to pass it, and that's usually the best bet on this map. Because once you're level 10, you have a better option of fighting. They're likely going to lose a fort up here, but they're going to trade down at bottom lane. On this particular map, what a lot of pros will try to do is they will open up the forts in the lane that they have their boss. And the reason why, both pro teams are doing this, but the reason why is this opens up a chance to win the game. We've got a mule who's going to be healing this until Shrimpy decides to kill it. But the reason you do this is once this is open, you can do a boss, and if you push with the boss, you're opening up the core and the ability for catapults to be spawning. Both teams know this plan, and both teams are going to be doing it. Team 12 goes for an early boss fight. This is another benefit of playing Abathur. You can soak lanes at the same time as you can place traps, which will make it to where it's harder for the enemies to sneak into the boss and invade without everyone knowing where they are. You can see Mule is being used essentially off cooldown every time it's up to a different location, and they're always just picking either towers, walls, or forts to try to heal up. The higher health you can keep it because structure damage never goes away. You always want to be having your Mule out if you have it. There's another benefit to using Mule, which is that you can use it for vision purposes as well as you can use it to stop objectives. So if, for example, everything is full health, you can hold on to Mule and you can save it to toss one Mule down and then use your Q onto the Mule and interrupt by using your dart or your other abilities. Boss is going to be taken by the other team as well. They both opened up these positions so that the boss will be a threat. Sadly, the objective is much closer to Team 12, so it's going to be an even trade after the objective gets taken. And now that Abathur has clone, the fights are going to be much more favorable for Abathur. Another trick with Abathur is if you see that your boss is pushing, it's going to be killing a lot of minions on the way. Just in the first few pushes, right up to here, it'll kill minions. When it gets up to the towers, you can pretty much ignore it. But when it's killing minions, a quick Q over to a minion will allow you to get experience when the minions die. This was something that he didn't end up doing, but again, it's just a small thing that you're able to do if you want to. All he did that for was to get the extra healing off. Rhaegar is one of those healers where, other than his totem, his healing is a little bit weak. So you want to always be doing as much healing as you can by yourself. If you look at the healing, Malfurion is a very strong healer, and he's healing more than Rhaegar. But at the same time, they're adding on an extra 5,800 healing slash shielding, which is making it very valuable to just be tossing out those shields and heals whenever you have them up. Again, just a simple shield to immediately go back to watching the map again. A shield, a couple auto attacks, see if you can clear the boss before it downs a tower. Now is where this is going to get very interesting. So we have the first objective that really matters in this game. It's also the first objective after getting Ultimate Evolution. It's on the southern part of the map. So what most likely is going to happen is we're going to have Abathur jump up to top lane to start soaking very hard. The enemies won't want to give up one of these objectives just to kill an Abathur, which means he's going to be able to soak and push very hard up at top lane, giving his team quite the experience advantage. At the same time, he should be looking to cloning Greymane. A cloned Greymane is one of the most scary things you can see because his damage is increased, his movement speed is increased, and you don't really want to kill a clone target because it's kind of a waste. So all the damage you do on a clone target is just kind of rough. So we're going to be in a situation where when clone is used, likely it's going to burn sanctification so that they can hide in there without needing to worry about anything. It may also burn a few other abilities at the same time. So we're going to see a pretty interesting fight coming up here. They're going to clear this very quickly because they still have 15 seconds to get to the objective. They don't want to lose soak up top. Again, just getting a shield off, not worrying about... A lot of what you're doing with Abathur is literally just tossing a Q on someone using your Qs, using your W, and using your shield. Now, he's going to use Ultimate Evolution. The target that he's using it on could be any target, and it really depends. It's one of the unique parts. While it's scary to do a Greymane, if you feel that there's another person that you can use it on, for example, if you were to use it on Arthas, when he uses Cocoon on Arthas, you would lose your tank if you didn't use it on Arthas, which means everyone would just need to leave. But if you were to Ultimate Evolution onto Arthas, you would now have two tanks that are slowing everything. So it all depends on what you feel is necessary for the team. Which he's going for the Greymane, which is what I expected. He's just getting a lot of damage off. And again, you can be very aggressive. Your Ultimate Evolution only lasts for 20 seconds. So if you're not getting your entire health value out of that 20 seconds, it's just wasted. Again, got a shield off. He immediately switched out so that he could start tossing W's down again. It's a big part about playing Abathur is making sure that you're getting all of your abilities and cooldowns used. So he used all of his W's before going and queuing again, giving a shield, a W, a Q. So they lost the curse this time, but with Abathur, it's not too bad because you can still be soaking multiple lanes, and you'll have the curse for the next fight. Again, getting shields off on Tracer whenever you can. Shields and heals on Tracer and Greymane. This allows Rhaegar to have less things that he needs to worry about. In between using your Q, you should always be trying to find positions where you can use Mule, as well as positions where you can be placing all of your Ws. As you can see, he did the W combo I was explaining where you place your Ws first, which will give enough damage to kill off backline, and then you use your Q so that when the backline dies, you get experience from it. The Mule essentially allowed enough protection so that the frontline towers were able to survive long enough to where they won't lose their keep during this. We have an engagement over here. And again, just a quick shield is all it takes. Keep damage is sort of irrelevant when you have Mule. So if it takes a decent amount of damage, you want to make sure it's not too low to where the enemies can't just go do it very quickly. But you also want to keep it... you could take a little bit of damage because you can always just Mule it. Level 13, the talent that he ended up getting was Spike Burst heals for each hero hit. The benefit to this talent for this type of comp is all of his people get very close when they fight. Greymane will jump in, Tracer will jump in for a melee attack, which means that your W is going to get a lot of value. Many Abathur players feel that getting the Bombard Strain, which Locust gain in ranged attack, is a requirement to playing Abathur. While certainly it will give you the option to side push a lot easier, and it is still a decent option while solo queuing, giving yourself a 107 heal per enemy hero hit every time you use a W, which will come out to be probably about 300 damage on average, is huge because the cooldown of W is not very long. So being able to Q on someone and then heal them for a chunk of health over 4 seconds as well as a chunk of health for your W and then getting off of them, dropping a couple Ws and then queuing a new person healing them is huge. And we're going to see that healing adding up throughout this game. Again, the damage isn't too relevant as Mule is going to heal it back up. You may wonder what he's doing right here. He's simply just trying to summon one Locust Strain, which will attack the unit, and it'll allow Greymane to focus less on moving around and more on just auto-attacking. Which the Strain didn't end up moving there, but again, it's just a thing you can do. So here's a situation where that Ancestral probably wouldn't have gone off unless it was for that shield and that extra heal. We've got a clone target coming out, and it's getting a little bit of damage off, as well as it's using some of their abilities. The longer you can distract with the clone, the better. Again, it only lasts for 20 seconds, so getting that full health value is extremely important. Now that the clone is dead, the first thing that he should be focusing on is getting his W's off, as well as getting the Mule onto this tower. Mule comes down on the tower. He's casting W and just getting into range right now. So he's got his Q's off, he's got his W's off. Most likely he's using W's to check vision on boss. He'll likely use 1 or 2 down here to get vision on this boss as well. Again, you can soak lanes, multiple lanes at a time. Simply just getting some damage off, killing some minions. The builds can change based off of how you want to do it. A lot of people will get additional stab charges if they got the talent at level 7 that does more damage in range. But if Mule's picked up or if Carapace is picked up, usually the best bet is the Soma transference. It's pretty important to try to save something, because if you can get it up to like 5% health and they leave, then you can always Mule it. As we saw the power of Mule, this was down to 20% health, and you'll use another Mule on it in a second. So right here is a very important time for Abathur, because if he can soak to 16, which is why he's jumping down right now, because if he can be near this wave when it dies, his team will be able to hit 16 first, and they'll get their 16 talents before this objective. This objective right here is a very important one, because it's about to give them the curse, and that curse can lead to a boss at the end of the curse, of course, because you always want to push with a curse. It's also split because they're going to have someone stopping top, and there's a lot going on before this fight. But the biggest thing is getting level 16, which Abathur is going to be able to do for his team. So while the enemy team needs to make a decision, do they want to try to soak for 16, or do they want to fight without 16? If they try to soak, they're going to be down a person, while Abathur is not down because he can soak this, hit 16, and immediately evolution someone. So they decide that they want to check this, but they're still trying to soak for 16. So they're ending up taking the worst of both decisions. We're going to see a clone incoming. So this is what I was talking about. Instead of cloning the Greymane in this situation, he decided to clone Arthas. And the reason why is because without a tank in this group, none of their damage can do anything. And their tank is already low health, and while Ancestral hasn't been used, his mana is low as well. So giving him time to just get some health back, some mana back, while there's a different tank in there is very important. When you have this, again, it only lasts so long, so your best bet is to just go in there with everything you've got. He only has 8 seconds left of this, so what he needs to do is pretty much burn the rest of his health down by wasting the enemy's abilities. You have more movement speed than the enemy, so landing your roots, if you're playing a character with roots, is very easy. Mule's used up here because over here is essentially full health and he doesn't want it to lose the towers. Level 16, the talent that was picked up was Carapace increases movement speed. This is mostly beneficial to the tank, with Arthas in particular. If Arthas can get up to him with a slow, he has a particular talent that is very frustrating, which is Frozen Tempest Slow Lingers. Meaning if you can get up to someone, there's no way that they're going to be able to get away. There's another talent that he can get up here that is Frozen Tempest Roots them if you're in it for long enough. So giving him a movement speed to where he can at least get the slow off in the beginning is pretty much a guaranteed kill. So while this was picked in this situation, it is not always the one that is picked. Oftentimes you'll see the spawn a group picked. Sometimes you'll see Slow's movement speed picked. Very rarely will you see volatile mutations picked unless they're constantly cloning the tank, which is not what they're always doing. Again, just quick Qs, quick shields. That's all you really need to do. You do a Q, you do a shield, and then you do your W to make sure that they get a burst heal, and that's it. So he decides he wants to try to get a tower because the next push that everyone's doing is going to be for level 20, and you also want to be able to open up the position in case your team gets a boss. So if the front walls are gone, that boss is pretty much guaranteed to get a keep. Again, a quick shield, a quick poke, but you don't stay. You always want to be using your other abilities. A lot of Abathurs make the mistake of staying cloned on someone for a very long time, and you don't need to do that. He only does just enough. But Arthas did delay long enough for them to get boss. He uses his clone so that he can get the boss much faster, as well as he can take the damage for Greymane because his health is irrelevant. So you'll see him getting very close to the boss and taking damage so that Greymane doesn't have to take it. When they get their boss, they know that the next option right now is for the enemies to get their boss. So he needs to be getting a little bit of vision, but at the same time, his best bet is to push some lanes so that the boss can't get that much value. So I don't know exactly where he's cloning right now. There's a lot of situations where you can clone. It looks like he's just giving shields. One big thing that you want to be doing with Abathur in these situations is you want to be trying to get 20. You can't just jump to these lanes. As you can see, he's never really been jumping out into lanes because it's very easy to find out where Abathur is based off of seeing the timing on these minions. You can see that there's a little orange bar underneath the minion, and based off of how long this thing is, as the minion goes, it slowly drains down, and when it goes down to the end, it dies because the minions only last for 25 seconds. So what happens with Abathur is if someone sees that this minion's practically full and it's sitting right here, that means that Abathur's sitting in this bush. So the enemies know this because these are pro players, so they're going to abuse things like this. Who we should be cloning is really interesting right now, just because personally I would like to see him clone and push mid lane and just get free experience because they are higher in level right now and they want to try to push for 20 before the enemies do. Currently, you can look at the healing, and again, healing and shielding. He is doing enough to really put his healer up quite a bit more, as well as at the same time, his experience contribution is higher than the people that have been double soaking. So he's adding quite a lot to the fight. His damage is also pretty reasonable, seeing as he's only jumping on a target for a couple seconds and then jumping off. As well as his siege damage is within the top 3. Abathur does a little bit of everything, and you have to utilize all of that. So this curse is one of the least important curses of the game, just because neither team is close enough to get a curse, and there are other camps up as well. So while they will probably go for it, they're probably not going to try to commit quite a bit. Looks like they're going to go for maybe a backdoor. And this is another trick too. You don't actually need a full commitment to a backdoor when you have an Abathur. All you actually need is you need him to push this wave up to about here and then let Abathur clone while you run away. Because you can just run away and go do another objective. However, the Abathur clone can take this out in a few seconds. So if Abathur clones up here and pushes with a wave, he can drop this very quickly, and if the enemies try to stop him, they're going to get a kill on a clone, and it's not going to be worth anything. So it's another trick you can do when you have keeps available. So Arthas, Tracer, and Abathur all warn that this area is dangerous, and I think it's because they are planning on doing this and finishing off their keep. And remember, I said that this was the least valuable curse in the game. Once Anubarak realizes that there's not a lot of people here, he decides to go back because he thinks that they're going to backdoor the keep. Arthas decides to stop that, though. Make sure that he can't recall. And there you go. You have the Greymane. You have the clone who's going to tank the shots because his life doesn't matter. They decided to go with a different method than I figured. I figured they would have just had him push and then clone it and have him finish it while the rest of them did cams. But this method works too. At level 20, there are a few options you can get. The Locust Nest is great to just leave a lane that's pushing forever, but without the value of one of these two strains, the Locust Nest gets kind of wasted. What you really want to do is you want to hive mind if you're going this build that has the heal, and the reason why is because you can place shields on two different targets, which both have healing properties, as well as you can do Ws, which burst heal both people. So Hive Mind's going to probably be the option that they go. Ultimate Evolution or Ultimate Link is sometimes one that's picked when you have a diver like Greymane or Tracer who could utilize a large shield, but it's only 25% of their health, which is a little bit iffy. So the best bet most likely is going to be Hive Mind. Again, you have health, you might as well use it. So again, just a quick shield, and then hop off of it, drop some Ws, drop a mule, and then back to doing a quick shield again. There's no point lingering on targets when you have other cooldowns you need to use. This curse is also pretty much irrelevant. It's free, though, if their team wants to take it, but ultimately they should be using this curse as either a free pickup or they should be using it as a tool to hit level 20, which means that they should be forcing the enemies to push out waves so that they can get more experience. They know that the enemies are going to give up the curse, so they let Abathur take the curse, as well as they're going to have their team go in and do something else. This is a tool that you can do on Abathur. If you know where the enemies are, getting these is pretty good, especially on like Towers of Doom. The problem is that you need to make sure that there's nothing else that you need to be doing, and you need to make sure that there's no enemies that'll pop in. Again, just a quick shield, nothing crazy. He did go Hive Mind, which is the one that I figured he would go, because in this build you want to be able to shield and heal two different people. The other ones are okay, but it's best to be able to get more value out of these. And you'll see what that looks like probably in a later fight. I'm going to speed up a little bit just to make sure this video doesn't get too long. Now this curse is very important because this is only 2 curses away from winning, as well as there's nothing else on the map to get. Normally when curses are important is when everyone's going to be available to get them. The challenge here is that we have people that are bot lane, which means that most likely we're going to try to pass this, and Team 12 is going to try to pass this, but they're going to stall for a little bit. This is a little risky because if they realize that they have people bottom lane, they're going to go in on Arthas as well as Tracer. But this could be very beneficial because with a clone and a Greymane and a Rhaegar, they can down this keep pretty quickly. The enemies were showing down there. I think the reason they were showing down there is because Greymane was down here, and they were expecting Greymane to meet up with his team, so they were probably hiding within this bush and this bush. But when you're playing Abathur, another trick you can kind of do is you can use your W to give yourself a path, or give your team a path where they know that they can go. Meaning if you put a W in this bush, and then you put Ws here and here, as well as a W in this bush, you know that the Greymane now knows he can safely walk from here all the way up to here without needing to worry about enemies, because there's mines in these bushes, and if there weren't mines in these bushes, there could be enemies in the bush. So one of the tricks that he uses with Abathur is to give his Greymane a safe path if he needs it. This also gives them the ability to know when the enemies are going to be backdooring, or not backdooring, when they're going to be flanking them. So when these guys are going to be taking this keep right here, and the enemies are going to be trying to flank them, right as they hit the first trap right here, Greymane and Rhaegar can immediately move down here, and they can hearth, while the clone can still finish off the keep. A mule was just placed here, and it's kind of a weird place for a mule if you think about it, but it's just giving that extra health bar of things that need to be killed before they start hitting anyone else. So they're defending this against the clone right now, which means that when the clone is dead, or when it times out in 8 seconds, this fight over here is going to be more favorable. So they realize that, and they leave. But what they didn't realize is that Greymane was still here. So now that he's leaving to win this fight, what's going to happen is they're going to lose a keep for it. And he realizes that, so he doesn't do that. They need to decide if they value this objective more than they value a keep, which ultimately a keep is valued much, much higher than a single curse. Unless that curse is going to, or unless that spirit's going to turn into a curse. So what they ended up doing was they did a 2 versus 2 scenario, right? Or a 2 versus 3, where they have the Tracer and the Arthas versus 3 of them, and then they have 2 down here. This puts Abathur at a really big advantage because he can just shield these people and protect them, as well as right as the shield ends, he can just go and shield another person and shield another person. And there's no person that the enemies can actually kill, putting Abathur at a really strong advantage. You can use W's to delay curses. If you place your W at the same exact time they use the curse, the W is going to pop before the curse is done channeling. You can also use Mule, but he doesn't need to use Mule because the curse is going to pop first. Oh, wait, no, never mind, it's not. I saw the bar differently. So she wants to get a shield and possibly burst someone, but you don't need to give a shield immediately. You can always hold off. We've got both bosses spawning soon, and because top is already taken, what's going to happen is he's going to get vision on top, but he's going to focus mostly on bottom, which means that likely there's going to be another W going here very soon. The boss will essentially win the game if they get it, even without the curse. And if they get this boss, they can choose to get this boss and get really whatever they want to. So they're in a really good position as long as they can get this boss. Because the enemies are missing and they just showed here, it's a pretty good guess that they're going to be right about here, or maybe going around this direction. So his best bet is to get some W's off very quickly to figure out where they're going. He only has 1 on cooldown, so it's either going to be right around here, or it's going to be right around here. He decides to go in this bush. Again, Mule's just another vision and just another body that's going to be in the way of things. Mule's kind of fun to use against someone who has a lot of skill shots, because those skill shots might be wasted on the Mule. But I personally would have recommended he used Mule in another area, maybe to interrupt the curse or something else. But you can also use Mule by tossing it down and then queuing on it, and you can use that to demount the enemies. And he's waiting for Q to go up. And now what you see right here is the mini version and the big version from his hive mind. So what he's using is he's using hive mind, which is shielding both of these people. It's healing both of these people. And he's using W, which is this big green that's going out from both. And that's going to be healing both of them for a chunk of their health. The problem here is they're sitting on a Sanctification, so as good as this combo is, it's gonna probably be a boss in favor of the enemies. There's no point in waiting for your Q to go off, or your other abilities to go on cooldown, because your Symbiote's cooldown is lower than your other abilities. So he's going to dig up top to push this, and it's going to force the enemies to back off if they're doing a boss, because if he has a bunch of catapults as well as locust strains that are pushing, he's going to have a really good time. Again, we've got a heal on the squishiest person on the team, making her harder to kill, and he's got locusts that are going. He was trying to ultimate evolution Greymane before he died. He tried to Q before he died. He's going to do another Q off on Tracer, likely, right before she dies. He's going to get this curse because it's free, and he's not risking anything to take it. He's also forcing the enemies to decide if they want back, since there's 2 catapults pushing. They likely will just push bottom lane, but he's abusing what he does have. He's going to ultimate evolution Arthas because it's a lot of free health that he can stall with. You can see how the enemies don't really want to kill him because he's just extra health and he's going to be gone in 11 seconds anyways, but they still do it anyways because he's just being really annoying and he's getting some damage off. So they did the full health of his Arthas while it was there. So essentially the clone target, they just did well, way more than 1,500. They did a lot of damage. So he has Mule again. He has 2 options here. He can Mule the base or he can Mule to interrupt something. Because the enemies are missing, other than these 3 right here and Blaze, he doesn't know where, I want to say, let's see, Anub'arak, Tyrael. He doesn't know where Tyrael is. It would be risky for him to try to take this on his own. But best bet is to use Mule on this on the other side. So if they want to destroy it, they have to go all the way over to the other side. He should be constantly using the Qs to keep Arthas up. Again, he was able to use Hive Mind, giving shields to both, healing to both, as well as Ws and Qs from both of them. He's using his W, and he's probably trying to get W's in range over here. And because W has a range, he can't really do that without walking. Again, Hive Mind, healing multiple. He used his Mule, I don't know where, because I can't see it, but he did use it because you can see the healing over here. Oh, there's the Mule. It's on that side. Again, just getting Qs off on as many people as he can whenever he can. Only one person left is Tyrael. Now, Tyrael does have trait value, so they need to be very careful about killing him before he does too much damage. But remember that the Mule is still healing things, so he's only going to be able to do about as much damage as that Mule's healing, which means he needs to make sure that he gets a shield off every time, and Tyrael did deal with the Mule, but there's no way that Tyrael is going to do enough damage. So without Mule, who was healing pretty much that entire time, as well as, so probably 20 seconds of healing, which was about 2,000 health, as well as the constant shields that were going on the core, this core would be dead, and it would be game over. So this is, again, another small testament to the power of Abathur on the right maps. So he, just to kind of give a overall of this game, he is 3rd highest on siege damage, he's 4th highest on hero damage, he's 3rd highest on healing, and he's highest on EXP contribution. He has no deaths, he has kills. The talents he picked all synergized with the dive comp that they had. as well as he was constantly using Q to put heals and shields on people, as well as turning it off immediately after he tossed it on there. And he was constantly soaking side lanes and giving vision in areas for his team to go. While Abathur may seem like an empty body for your team, where it's just a 4v5 every game, Abathur enables a lot of situations where it makes the team easier. And you can clone targets to have a lot of damage very quickly. You can see these 500s that are just hitting one after another after another. And you can position into a situation to where the enemy has to attack you first, despite the fact that the real Greymaine's back here. So that is why pros pick Abathur. If you'd like to see more videos on an analytical side of why pros pick certain heroes, I can definitely do those. If you have any extra tips about Abathur or this particular game, feel free to toss a comment down below. Thank you.